Hey everyone, welcome back to the Christmas Carol Countdown on iHeart Movies. My name is Jonathan North, and in this episode, my friend Eli Sanza is joining me to talk about another animated version of the story, this time from the 1970s. As you can probably tell by the fact that this episode is probably going to go up on Christmas, this year the Christmas Carol Countdown will just be counting right past Christmas. Maybe we can say it's counting down to New Year's. Either way, I've said before the name is barely more than a catchy title because I like alliteration, and that has never been more true. I've been so busy all month with work and my internship that I've gotten way behind on my own editing, and it's times like this that I'm glad I don't have a huge audience that expects regularly scheduled videos. Sometimes I don't know how the big YouTubers do it. Anyway, today's episode was suggested by Eli Sanza. He's another of my friends that loves animation, and he wanted to talk about the 1971 version starring Alastair Sim. If that name is familiar to you, it could be because Alastair Sim is someone who played Scrooge several times, most notably in the 1951 live-action film Scrooge. So, why don't you tell us what you like about this one and why you chose it?
Okay, yeah, the Richard Williams version of A Christmas Carol. I chose this one to be the movie that we talked about because I really liked particularly the animation style of this version. I liked the fact that the one was darker than other Christmas Carol adaptations, and also the pedigree behind the filmmakers who worked on this also really interesting to me because there are some people behind this animated short that I really admire in the animation community. So this one I thought was rich for discussion.
Yeah. When did you first see this one?
You know what? I actually just saw this one about a year ago. It was actually, for the first time, I actually saw it about a year ago because even though it came out in like the 70s, I had never actually heard of it or gotten a chance to watch it in any capacity because I didn't see it on video or it didn't come on TV or anything. So it was sort of like hidden away from me until I started learning more about Richard Williams, the guy who directed it, because I became a fan of him kind of later in life too. And as soon as I started looking into his filmography, I discovered this. So my love for Richard Williams, which sort of evolved from the short film he made called Prologue, which came out a few years ago. As soon as I saw that, then my fandom of him sort of grew. And then that's when I started looking at his past films. And then I discovered this. And so I just watched it based on that, just recently. And so I'm kind of a recent fan of it.
Yeah, I had not seen this one at all until you suggested watching it. I think I'd heard about this one, but I'd never watched it.
Oh, okay. So you just finished it for the first time recently, right?
Yeah, like just less than a half hour ago.
Oh, okay. So your reaction is going to be fresh.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay.
So my overall impression was I really liked the animation. It had good music. I liked that it was kind of a darker take on it. And that's probably about it because I wasn't a huge fan of the characters. Like even Scrooge, Alastair Sim voiced Scrooge, and he did a great job as Scrooge in a live action version in either 1951 or 59, I can't remember. I reviewed that one with Rachel like the first year that I was doing this series, and
Right.
he was great in that one, but I didn't feel the same way about this one because like a lot of what he was doing just kind of felt like he was reading the lines. There wasn't as much emotion as I expected. Like, there was some emotional variation, but not a whole lot. He didn't really seem all that nasty at the beginning. He just seemed like he was kind of tired and depressed instead of, like, mean and cantankerous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the version that you were talking about that you watched with Rachel, which was called Scrooge, and it came out in 1951.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one I haven't watched that one, but I heard people raved about that and that it was really good. And I get you saw it, so I guess you would know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I heard that that one was so good that I'm not that surprised that his the follow up work in this animated version wasn't as good.
Hmm. But beyond that, also felt like, and this, I kind of figured this going in, seeing as how it's only about 25 minutes, it felt
Hmm.
very rushed. It felt like a very abbreviated version of the story. You
Yeah.
could really tell when they were cutting things out to save time. Like, I've seen enough versions that I kind of know how the story's supposed to go, and I know when things are missing. So I could really tell in this one that things were getting cut out just to keep things going at a really quick pace.
Well, I have seen versions of this story on film multiple times before I finally watched this. So I noticed exactly what you're talking about. It felt really rushed, and it's to be expected because it is like a 20-minute
Mm,
film. So it's not that surprising, but it sort of gets in the way of the enjoyment of it when it's so noticeable. And I don't know if it's exactly anyone's fault that it felt rushed, other than the fact that just simply the story just is too big to be contained within
mm,
that time frame. So I think it might just be the time link's fault. I think that the filmmakers were doing what they could within that time frame as best as they could, and it's not like it was completely a waste of time because it's not. The animation is beautiful and all that.
hmm.
Yeah, but I see exactly what you're talking about. It did feel like it was hindered by its short time length.
Hmm. Yeah, most short versions feel like they need to be longer. I would say the only one that does a good job of masking how short it is Mickey's Christmas Carol, because even though it's very short and you can tell it's short, they somehow keep it going at a good enough pace that it doesn't feel like it's harming the story too much.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Mickey's Christmas Carol did a great job with that story. It did not feel rushed at all, and it was also an Oscar nominated short film, just like this one.
Hmm.
But it was made by Disney artists, and they're great storytellers all the
Hmm.
time. So I'm not surprised that they did so well with it.
Yeah, this one, it definitely wasn't a bad film. I just, I feel like I wanted it to be like I said this in the last one that I reviewed. I reviewed one with Mark the other day, and it didn't have the same problems, but I feel like my takeaway is about the same in that it had a lot of potential. I just wish it were a little bit better than it was, but for totally different reasons. Because his was a newer version from the '90s, and this one I like the art style a lot more than I liked that art style, and I liked. Well, it's kind of hard to explain without you having seen it. Have you seen the '97 version?
No, sorry, I haven't.
Okay, well, I shouldn't get too much into it because I'm already doing an episode on that. But anyway, my takeaway is about the same in that it's another animated version, and it had a lot of good things about it, but it didn't live up to what I wanted it to live up to. But totally different reasons.
Oh, okay, so it was the '90s version that you saw. Was that a feature length version?
Yeah, it was just over an hour, so
Oh, okay.
it didn't feel like it was abbreviated, but it needed I felt like the animation needed to be just a little bit better. The music definitely needed to be better. Like the music in this one, even though there was hardly any music, was way better than the music in the '90s version because it was like a full-on musical and it was not good in terms of being musical.
Okay, well, Richard Williams always has great animation in his films, so I'm not
Yeah.
surprised that the '70s Christmas Carol that you just watched, that one, I agree, the art is amazing in this.
Yeah. I kind of wish that they would have made this a full-length movie. Maybe gotten a different Scrooge or at least made him do a few more line reads to get a little more emotion out of him because the animation and the art style, that's the best thing about this. because it looks so good. I really like the sketchy. I think it was called like a woodblock. It was styled after like woodblock art, like prints, woodblock prints,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. It was actually based off the illustrations of the original book.
Okay, yeah. This the style of the animation and the backgrounds and everything looks great. Like
Yeah.
I would rewatch this one again just for the art. Even though I wasn't a big fan of the voices, the art was great. So I would recommend it just to animation fans, just based on the art alone.
I would second that because my favorite part about this is the animation. If it weren't for the animation, I don't think I would enjoy it as much. So
Mhm.
that actually is a good note when recommending this because I've seen so many versions of this story, so it's not like the story is going to exactly pull me in because I already know it's going to happen. But if you just want to see a different version of it with a different like visual style. It's interesting.
Yeah, visually, this is probably one of the best ones that I've seen. I really liked, and when I say that something is darker, this I feel like dark has multiple meanings in this one because just visually it's very dark beyond just being kind of creepier in some places.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that about it. It really fit, especially with the art style.
Yeah,
But like I said, it's two meanings to dark because there were some creepy parts to this. Like Marley is one of the most horrifying Marleys in any version that I've seen. Like
oh, I agree.
even the 2009 one, that one was really creepy, especially with the jaw thing. But there was something
Mm-hmm.
about the way they did it in this one that I think is even more creepy than the 2009 one.
Yeah, totally. That's one of the best looking like character designs I've ever seen with Marley's ghost.
Uh-huh. Yeah, just really creepy.
Yeah.
And then The Ghost of Christmas Past was not that creepy, but it was different than I'm used to for The Ghost of Christmas Past. I think they still followed the like in the book, The Ghost of Christmas Past is described as like their head is like a candle flame, something like that. And I think that they leaned into that in a different way than I've seen before, with the head
Yeah.
sort of kind of flickering and being like double or triple sometimes.
Yeah, it was really interesting looking the character design.
I kind of wanted more from the voice though, because I'm kind of used to, even though the Ghost of Christmas Past is usually the quietest ghost,
Mm-hmm.
they usually do something with the voice to make it, I don't know, stand out more. Like they add echo or reverb or something, so that
Uh,
gives it like a force. But this, it was just they were very quiet.
yeah, well, yeah, they played this. The actor who played that role was subdued about it. It was very non-flashy.
Uh-huh. And I will say that even though I didn't feel like the version as a whole had a whole lot of emotion, the scene when Scrooge and Belle break up, even though it was super short, I felt like that was the most emotional part of the whole thing. Just there was something about her delivery that was just really good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree with that, and I also agree that one of the reasons why the story is so popular is because if you keep the bare like the core themes of the book, it's usually successful in whatever film you're adapting it to because the themes are just so great. And in this one, the idea that Ebenezer Scrooge, is like cares more about getting rich than he does about his girlfriend.
Mhm.
There's something kind of sad about that, and that usually always resonates with no matter which version of the story you're watching.
Yeah, but there was just something about the way she delivered her lines that just felt more emotional and heavy than most versions that I've seen. She was just
Uh,
whoever the actress was that played Belle was just she was really good.
yeah, yeah, no, I agree.
One of the weirdest things in this version, I feel like, was the Ghost of Christmas Present. Mainly because it looked like he had a full head of hair on his chest.
Yeah.
It was like he had meticulously combed it so it was parted down the middle. It was very strange.
Yeah, that was. I noticed that it was a weird look. I was like, wow, his chest is completely hair. It's not hairs. It's just hair.
Yeah.
I think they were just like trying to like save money on art by just let's just color his whole chest like completely brown. That'll save money.
Yeah, I suppose. If they did like traditional chest hair, it probably the way they were doing like the sketchy style, it probably would have been very animated. It might have looked like static almost. So I suppose
Yeah,
they're
that was,
doing it that way so it looked better, maybe, but it just
I.
looked weird to me.
Yeah. Well, I get. What can you do? I guess. I guess they were on a budget.
And then the scene with the ghost of Christmas present, there was another kind of weird scene in there too that I don't know if this is from the book or not because it's been ages since I've read the book, and I don't think this is something that, if it's in the book, other versions don't usually include it. They're just kind of flying around looking at random people on Christmas. Like
Mm-hmm.
he said, they were looking at miners, and then they're like flying out to sea and looking at a sailor, and it was just it felt really out of place, and the scenes were just so quick that it was like if this is in the book I feel like it could have been cut really easily and given that time to something else because, like, at the Cratchit's house, they didn't spend very long there. Like, you could tell all that dialogue was super abbreviated. And then they hardly spent any time at his nephew's house. I think his nephew had like a line or two while they were there, and that was about it. So it felt
Yeah.
like that this strange scene of them just flying around looking at all these random people who don't play any important part in the story just kind of felt like it filled up some time that could have been given to something else.
Yeah, well, that's the main issue with this film is just the time that
Hmm.
the time length. It's like it's compared to like so many other versions. It's just not up to par. That's just the issue. Like the only thing that really makes this stand out is how it looks.
Yeah, and in that scene with the Ghost of Christmas Present, they actually include a scene that is very rare. Like very few versions include the scene of ignorance and want. And I will say that
Yeah.
they were probably the creepiest parts, at least ignorance especially. I think ignorance was even creepier than Marley. Just the way he looked, it was like almost like a skeletal golem or something. It was just really creepy. Want was
Yeah.
creepy too, but not nearly as creepy as ignorance.
Well, yeah, and I also liked how they included that because
Mhm.
you don't see that in all the other versions, and that kind of resonated because it was really creepy.
Yeah, it's one of the scenes that very few versions incorporate because it is a bit
Yeah,
random and it doesn't. I guess it's not super relevant to the whole story, but I feel like it's
yeah,
relevant to his character growth more than anything. But it's not one that
yeah,
like super needed, so I think a lot of versions cut it. But I did like that this one included it.
yeah. I mean, I think they, I think they, I think it was good that they included it because based on like what the artists did and with that scene, it was effective.
Hmm. Yeah, and then after that, you get into the Ghost of Christmas Future, and like pretty much everybody in this scene is gross looking. Like
Yeah.
is gross. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but it was just especially like the one of his quote unquote friends, not really a friend, but like somebody he knows. There's something about the way he looked and like his nose was super gross and creepy and
Oh God.
uh
Yeah. Look
yeah,
look like a melting hawk or something. Man.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, they did a good job of making the future seem like a unappealing time, which is what they were going for, I guess.
Hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
But I guess it worked because he reformed.
Yeah, he saw that and he was like, "Please, Spirit, make me like give me another chance. I want to change my ways."
Then when you get to the end when he is reforming, this is another place where it just felt super quick, like super
Yeah,
abbreviated. Like he doesn't even ask the boy at the window to go get the turkey. He walks by it himself and says he'll send it, and then keeps on going. And it's almost like a montage. Like there were a few
yeah,
scenes in this that felt like a montage, but the end especially felt like a montage. And
yeah.
then by the last scene the next day when he gives Cratchit a raise, it just sort of ends very abruptly.
Yeah. Well, the thing about this is that I would tell people before I recommended this is that this kind of feels a little bit more like an homage to A Christmas
Yeah.
Carol than a real full adaptation, because there are plenty of those that are way better.
Uh-huh.
If you just want to see like a version of this that's different from the other versions you've seen, and you're a fan of like animated films, then I would totally tell you to watch this.
Yeah, and now that you say that, it kind of reminds me of the way that Sarah and I would talk about some of the old silent films that we watched, because a lot of times we would say that you really shouldn't watch them unless you're already familiar with the story, because it's kind of just watching some of the scenes play out instead of being like a full-on narrative. And
Right.
this was sort of a hybrid between that. Like it was almost a full-on narrative, but it was also just a series of scenes from the book.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we talked about that when we were doing that podcast about the movie Nosferatu. It sort of
Yeah.
felt sort of felt similar, and and I think I said this before when we were recording that, but that's a pitfall that a lot of film adaptations of books fall into.
Mhm. Yeah. But on the whole, I wouldn't say that this is a bad film, and I would definitely recommend it to animation fans.
Yeah, me neither. I would not say it's a bad film. I thought it was like definitely worth watching. I don't regret watching it at all. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. It's definitely not one of my like top 5 or top 10 or whatever, but I think it's totally worth watching if you like just different kinds of animation, because there aren't very many animated films that look like this one. It just has a
Yeah,
really unique style.
yeah, especially in those days, because like a lot of animation in the '70s was not really that dynamic. It was a little bit more limited. Like,
Mhm.
but this one felt like full animation, and that was kind of rare in those days. If
Yeah.
you weren't Disney.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's all I've got for notes. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about it?
No, that's it. I think we covered it all.
Okay, well, I guess that'll probably be about it then. Do you want to
All
let
right.
people know where they can find you?
Yeah, yeah. If you want to find me, I'm on Twitter most of the time, and on Twitter, my handle is at eJunkie2014. And if you follow me there, then I will send you a link to my blog, which is where I post about most of the entertainment shows, movies, video games, and my opinions on them. So go to Twitter, and I'll see you there.
Yeah, and I'll have links in the description as well. Okay, well,
Thank
thanks for joining me for this. We'll have to talk about doing another one of these days.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I always enjoy talking about films with you.
Yep. Well, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you.
Thanks again to Eli for joining me in this episode. If you'd like more from him, I'll have his links in the description below. As I said at the beginning, the Christmas Carol countdown will continue past Christmas this year. I actually still have 2 episodes left to record, one with Rachel Wagner and the other with my cousin Sarah. We've watched the films, we just haven't been able to find the time to record the reviews. Hopefully we'll be able to schedule something this week, and whichever one gets recorded first will be the next episode. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time for more on the Christmas Carol countdown on iHeart Movies.